Hey there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Yoslo, and this is a video on my Game of Thrones Season 8 theories. To preface, I'd like to say that a few of these are not my theories, but together, all of them make up my very own theory for the end of the show. To start off, I want to go over a theory that I heard about Jaime Lannister. I believe that he is the prince who was promised, or as some know him, Azor Ahai. To quickly explain Azor Ahai to people who may not know the precise prophecy, here is that prophecy. There will come a day after a long summer when the stars bleed and the cold breath of darkness falls heavy on the world. In this dread hour, a warrior shall draw from the fire a burning sword, and that sword shall be Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes, and he who clasps it shall be Azor Ahai come again, and the darkness shall flee before him. Now this prophecy was read by Melisandre, and for a deeper legend on Azor Ahai, to go back to the Long Night, darkness lay over the world, and a hero, Azor Ahai, was chosen to fight against it. To fight the darkness, Azor Ahai needed to forge a hero's sword. He labored for 30 days and 30 nights until it was done. However, when he went to temper it in the water, the sword broke. He was not one to give up easily, so he started over. The second time, he took 50 days and 50 nights to make the sword, even better than the first. To temper it this time, he captured a lion and drove the sword into its heart. But once more, the steel shattered. The third time, with a heavy heart, for he knew beforehand what he must do to finish the blade. He worked for 100 days and nights until it was finished. This time, he called for his wife Nissa Nissa and asked her to bare her breast. He drove the sword into her living heart, her soul combining with the steel of the sword, creating Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes. Although he had Lightbringer, Azor Ahai did not fight alone. The Jade Compendium mentions that when the hero thrusts the blade through a monster, the creature bursts into flames. It is unknown if Azor Ahai is connected with the legend of the last hero who lived during the Long Night and helped to defeat the others. So, a lot of this is from the book, the legend itself, and it's not specifically said in the show, but Melisandre in Season 7 did mention plenty of time throughout the show that she thought Stannis was the prince who was promised, i.e. Azor Ahai. Now, as the show went on, it became clear that he wasn't, and he died. Going on, when she was able to resurrect Jon Snow from the dead, she thought maybe he is Azor Ahai reborn. And with that, she's followed with him, and then also thought that maybe the second half to him would be maybe Daenerys. And they both were kind of forged into who they were during A Bleeding Star and Among Salt and Smoke. And anyways, this is the main theory running around, is that those two are Azor Ahai, the prince who was promised, the last hero, and they will defeat the Night King, which it could be. I'm not saying that it can't, but I just feel that actually Jaime Lannister, who also has gone through one of the most crazy up and down character arcs in all of Game of Thrones, book and show, would possibly be a better candidate for this hero. So now that I read that off, I want to go over why I feel Jaime Lannister is that hero. First, Jaime has been through a lot as he's grown through the seasons, like I just said, moving from clear villain at the start of the show to hero as the seasons progressed. A big point to this is that Jaime has been corrupted by himself and by his sister. As he states in the show, I am this hand, or I was this hand, referring to his sword hand that he used to become one of the most renowned fighters in the Seven Kingdoms. Jaime's first step into becoming this last hero was losing his hand. This is a step into removing his corruption, as Qyburn says when he meets Jaime. The corruption has spread. I must cut it away. After this, Jaime is open with Brienne and talks about he saved people the day he killed the Mad King rather than just being an oath-breaking Kingslayer. Because of the Mad King's crazed mind, he wanted to burn the whole city to the ground rather than let anyone take it, and Jaime was able to stop that before it happened. Brienne's eyes are opened, and she is one of the most honorable people in the Seven Kingdoms, and she was able to see that he was more than just his nicknames and whatnot. Moving along, Cersei herself is a source of the corruption to Jaime. His bad side is brought out of him whenever he is with her, from pushing Bran out of the window to threatening Edmure Tully in Season 6. After all that corruption, though, he finally cannot take it, and after Cersei lies to Daenerys and Jon in Season 7 about joining the fight against the Night King, he leaves her for good. He will not break another oath. In the trailer to this final season, Jaime is heard saying, "I promise to fight for the living, and I intend to keep that promise," further showing growth and his more heroic side. Okay, now that I've kind of prefaced that whole side of it, I will leave a link in the bottom of the description showing the actual full theory about Jaime being Azor Ahai. If you would like to read the whole long theory, this is just kind of like a really small synapsed version so that I can get through the rest of the theories. Alright, after the defeat at Winterfell, in episode 3, which is supposed to be the longest battle scene in cinema history, I do think that it will be a defeat for the heroes. And I think that many characters, including Jorah, Grey Worm, Brienne, and Podrick, maybe even Gendry, might all die. And the rest of the characters fall back to King's Landing. The Night King stops for a while after his victory, and more is revealed, possibly through Bran's vision at the same time, that the Night King is in fact a Stark of old, and he uses his dark powers to summon the Kings of Winter from the crypts and moves on south. At King's Landing, Cersei, upset at the miscarriage of her pregnancy that she revealed last season, due to her prophecy from Maggie the Frog in Season 5, might just allow Jaime back in to the castle because she might be feeling like he's the only one left of her family, and I don't know. There might also be a chance for them to sneak in the castle with maybe the Hound versus the Mountain so that Jaime can get close enough to Cersei to finally finish and destroy his corruption from the final source, which is Cersei, also revealing the same part of that prophecy where Azor Ahai has to kill his wife, Nissa Nissa. Cersei's kind of that representation also, so it could just allow him to fulfill that prophecy all at once. Moving on, once the dead arrive at King's Landing, the final battle commences, and the Golden Company that was there to serve Cersei realizes that there's an army of undead and decides to fight because they were already there. There might be some more interplay in between that for the final battle, but I think that it'll get resolved pretty good, so that they all are realizing that they need to fight on the side of the living, otherwise this will spread through all lands, not just Westeros. Daenerys, Drogon, and Rhaegal will fight Viserion, the undead dragon, in the sky, as once dragons battled dragons for millennia. This inevitably will kill all the dragons and Daenerys, ending her story in a flash of terrible fire and sacrifice. The Night King, meanwhile, will be fighting the rest of the heroes on the ground, and Jaime is finally able to take him out, being the last hero, and maybe even dying in the process himself. Many more will die, and I'm sure all of us viewers will be really sad and discouraged because all this is happening, and maybe these last couple of seasons have made it feel like some characters are more immune than we thought, with Jon coming back and with a little bit of plot armor last season for certain characters that maybe shouldn't have been there. But I think this final season will return to form and a lot of characters will die. I think afterwards, the battle's finished, Daenerys will be burned as all Targaryens are, and she will get to reunite with Khal Drogo and her son in the Nightlands, which I feel is a very bittersweet ending for Daenerys, because although she may be in love with Jon, there might be some conflict there when it's revealed that he's a Targaryen, even though they've had things in the past where Targaryen marries Targaryen. I think that this is a good way for her story to end and for her to reunite with them, like she did in that vision in the Tower of the Undying in season 2. Then they will all realize from a vision from Bran that there must always be a sort of Night King to hold the dead back and hold the cold from wreaking havoc on Westeros. And I think that Jon, being the sacrificial character that he is, will sacrifice himself to become the hero that he always was, and he will take a dragonglass dagger to the heart like the original Night King did, and lead any dead that's still around back to the lands of Always Winter, and with this will bind them there forever. Bran will go back in a vision and explain to the living people how to create a new wall with more spells to hold back the dead if they ever march again. Because you never know. It took 8,000 years for this army to come. Maybe in another 8,000, Jon won't be able to hold them back anymore, and they will march. But afterwards, I think Bran, being finished with his job of being the Three-Eyed Raven and protecting the Seven Kingdoms from his enemy, the Night King, he will sail across the God's Eye, which is the lake near Harrenhal, and he will go to the little island in the center where there's a huge weirwood net, and he'll live amongst the green men from out there. Arya, I think, will buy a ship and sail west across the Sunset Sea in search of adventure, as she said to the actress in Bravos in season 6, I believe. Theon will kill Euron as his final redemption, ending the Greyjoys for good. Sansa, Tyrion, Missandei, Davos, and any other rulers or advisors will bind a new contract that keeps each realm separate and on good terms with each other. I was thinking more on the lines of maybe even changing from the feudalistic system of lords and kings, and maybe even moving on to something more resembling a republic or a democracy. I know it might seem like a weird thing to do, but it almost feels right, because I read in some of the in the World of Ice and Fire that when the first long night ended, a lot of kingdoms in the east were no longer the same, and the big kingdoms that were still there fractured into smaller kingdoms. And so it only makes sense in my mind that they might go to something like this, because if I remember correctly, George R.R. Martin did say to the two creators, Dan and Dan, that their show, or telling them the ending. So I feel like there will be a similar ending to this in the books. It might just be a different way that they go about it in the books versus how they're doing it in the show. I think that Sansa will then go back to the north, and she'll lead it. Tyrion will live out his days at his very own vineyard, making his very own Imp's Delight that he said he would make when he is retired. I think that Jaime, once hated and possibly dead at this point, will be beloved forevermore for ending the long night. Sam will be able to write his story that he had left unwritten in that white book of the Kingsguard, and Then I think the show will end with an older Sam reading to his kids about the final fight for the Dawn and close the book revealing a song of ice and fire. Now I know that this theory is pretty cheesy. I feel like it wraps up most of the stories well. There might be a few things that I left out, but this is the main bulk of it that I wanted to say, and I feel that this way it makes the ending very bittersweet, as well as kind of a good way to end it, because a lot of the heroes are still alive, but a lot of them had sacrificed themselves to save the realm, and I think that makes sense in a story by George R. R. Martin, where no one is safe, that a few will live, but a lot will die. And it also should be stated that this is just a theory and could very well be completely wrong, but I had to make my theory before the season is released. And if you have a theory of your own, I would love to hear it in the comments. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos in the future. Bye.